masculinity is getting killed.
In society, it's just getting less and less.
Well, we had that discussion the one day about the toxic masculinity BS. Now, you can just, but that's a whole different ballgame. That's not toxic. That's just a jerk. There's nothing wrong with being absolutely masculine and leading your family.
Also, too, on this subject, we need to be careful what we're teaching our daughters. I think when little girls are really tiny and they get bossy and all that, I've always worked with my girls about teaching them to be a good friend and be sweet to other people. It doesn't mean you can't be assertive. You can teach your girls to be assertive and stuff, but we're pushing in society for girls to be like this, controlling.
Yes.
And empowering them to be controlling, and that's never what we were meant to be.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rising Father Podcast. I'm Chris Rodack. I have special guests today. My wife, Sara. We have Dr. Darrin Vanscoy and his wife, Holly, here with us as well. Dr. Vanscoy is the health expert in our program, Men of Fire, with the Rising Father brand, and he's been kicking ass. So we drove down here to West Virginia to do an in-person podcast. He's helping me get shredded, and we're going to also film some content. So welcome, guys.
Thanks, bro. Glad to be here. Glad you guys made it. I'm glad you guys made it down in one piece. Now the snow's starting to get here, right? I guess we had some issues with the kids, but
Yeah, we came down to West Virginia, and there was started to snow kind of as we were getting down here, and then this small twisty road was a little bit scary, but we got down here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But we kind of want to talk about just our relationships, marriage, and we'll talk about us too. But let's dig into you guys first.
Yeah, so we've been married since '95, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I got that one right. I was kind of sweating over it.
I don't think
Almost 30 years coming up. So,
year.
but the thing I think that it's important that we get to the guys that marriage is never an easy thing. We had our own little tiff this afternoon before we came here. So it's like, it's always a struggle. I think that we probably setting that up for the guys to know that, listen, it's not an easy thing, that it's constant work. And so 30 years, almost 30 years, 4 kids, almost 4 grandbabies now, 1 on the way. Mm-hmm. We've learned a lot. Yep. And I'd say I got a strong woman in your life is unbelievably important. There is no doubt, and letting them be strong and be a leader in their own aspect of it, I think is really important. And so, there's been a lot of times she's had to make some ultimatums on me. And so I think that I've grown from those. She's laughing. You can feel free to put in your input there. But, but marriage it's a struggle. It's always a lot of work. It's definitely worth it. There's nothing more important than a strong marriage, a strong foundation. I truly believe that setting up that relationship so that our kids can mirror what they see in our relationship is huge as far as the stability of marriages across the board. Because I think what's the divorce rate now? Like 65%.
Yeah, not good.
It's terrible. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, in that, kids aren't seeing. I mean, our own friend. I mean, our daughter's boyfriend's parents just got a divorce after what, 20-some years?
Yeah, 29.
29 years. And so, and I mean, he's what, a sophomore, sophomore in college? Yeah. And it's rocked his world. And so, that type of relationship change, even at that age, is very difficult for kids to handle. And so, now he's in a dual parent split kind of thing, trying to manage. He's very close with his mom, close with his dad, doesn't know how to manage that. And it's been a whole position shift for him. So, I mean, those types of things are what we want to see come out of this Rising Fathers. What I really want to see my heart for is these strong marriages for our guys in this program. But, that starts with discipline, right? And so that's what, the key is with the Rising Fathers is discipline. And so, I mean, I've had the discipline along the way, for sure. That's never been, hard worker in the room has not been a thing for me, has it? But, no, not at all. But I'm a type A personality and she's a type A personality, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that both of our parents have said, no, the only people that could be married to us is the other person that's married to us. Like, because we've had some doozies of some fights, but we get over it. And our kids have seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
And they've seen us get over that and model that. And now that we're getting to see them actually model our relationship somewhat in their relationship and their marriages and how they parent. But, it's been a struggle. And overall, what we talk about, I want to be realistic with the guys that they watch this is know like this. And it's hard. It's a lot of work. It's constant work. It's constant upkeep, especially, now that we're in the, I would say, prime of our marriage where we've got empty nest.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun, right? I mean, it's still stressful because we're still running all over the place. We've got college athletes we're trying to keep up with. But I think that the biggest part of that is that you can't ever quit working, which is what we're always pushing with the guys, right? There is never an acceptable point when you can just say I can coast. When you're coasting, you're doomed to fail at something, right? And so it's just every day getting up, recommitting that you're going to make that day a better relationship, a better day for your relationship with your wife or spouse, with your fitness, right, in business, and those types of things. So we've been at it for 30 years. Started in preschool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you guys, where'd you meet?
Yeah, preschool actually. Yeah, so we're from a small town in West
Yeah.
Virginia. I think our graduating class was 53.
Yeah.
53.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I first met
It's
her.
not as small as mine. My graduating class was 25 at St.
You're gonna give-
Athanasius.
yeah.
Public?
No, private,
Private.
Catholic school.
Ours was.
So ours is
Public.
public and that small.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so it's
Yeah.
a tiny little school. But yeah, we first met, I think, with a clothespin fight in my basement.
Yeah. His mom and dad were both my teachers.
Clothespin fight?
Yeah, we got throwing clothespins at each other. I know.
That doesn't sound good.
Really great first date, right? But I don't know how it ended up, but that's what we ended up doing. And so we dated. Well, I love that, will you go with me kind of thing, like in fourth grade. And so she'll never let me forget. I drew a picture of a whale.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, nice.
and did
What was the whale
still
thing?
have
Yeah, what's it say?
I still have it.
it was one thing I could draw really well, right? So I sent her this picture of whales. Hey, will you go with me? I don't know why I did. It was looking back. It was like
Check
the
yes or no.
Oh my
corniest,
gosh.
dumbest
Check
thing
yes
you
or
could ever
no.
do. But it was the one
But I
thing I
still have
could do
it.
well. It was one thing I could do well, right? Draw like sea life, ocean stuff. So that's why I sent her a picture of this whale. Say, will you go with me? I was in fourth grade. Went to her house, watched some Steelers games, this and that, and then I don't know.
We dated in the 8th grade.
Dated in
Broke
eighth
up.
grade again.
And dated other people, but had like a dating circle together. So we were dating other people, but going out together. So that was kind of weird. And then,
We finally started dating when she molested me in the back of my Toyota truck.
Not true. 16.
At 16.
No.
We started officially dating. So,
Yeah.
but our we started off really best friends. I think was the funny thing because we went to a lot of camps together and we weren't dating at the time. And people would be like, "You guys dating? Like, there's no way you're just friends, right?" And we're like, "No, we're just buddies." Like we would set each other up on dates and do this stuff. And people kept saying, "There's no way you guys got to be dating." We're like, nope, we're just good friends. And so even when I was dating other people, occasionally I'd be bored and say, I'd call her and say, "Hey, I got to go to the grocery store. You want to go with me?" And she'd be like, "Yeah, let's go."
When your dad was my coach,
Yeah.
in volleyball. And so the guys would play the girls as a scrimmage to get us really good, against the other teams. And so I'd go over there every night to get the ball game stats and all that, and he'd be there. So our lives were just intertwined. And
Yeah, and so I started keeping stats for the volleyball team. Had some interest in it per se, but so we've been dating, and then through college.
yeah,
And so I went to WVU, started dating in college. She got really involved. And actually, we're really kind of one of the turning points in our relationship was we were both like crazy busy. I was going kind of one way. She was going the other. She got really involved with Campus Crusade for Christ. And I had a lot of friends coming in from the Naval Academy and do these things a week. So it was some wild weekends. I mean, some really wild
For
weekends.
you.
For me, not for her.
With the Christ Crusaders.
Yeah, no. Yeah, she was with the Christ Crusaders. I wasn't. I was
So not
with-
Wild Weekends with the Christ Crusaders.
Yeah, no. I was with the guys, the cadets from the Naval Academy, and just buddies coming in from all over the place. Pretty wild weekends, and I really wasn't heading. Studies were still good. But really wasn't heading in a relationship where she wanted. She put her foot down and said, "Listen, change your life around. Get more focused on Christ-centered relationship, focused on me, that type of thing, or I'm out." And so
after 5 years of dating,
after 5 years of
I
dating,
gave him the ultimatum.
she gave me the ultimatum. It wasn't do this now and marry me. It was just like, do this. This is the kind of husband I want.
Yeah.
Right. And she set her guidelines up and was very specific about, listen, I want, A, B, C, D. And this is what I expect, or you can't marry me. And so I don't really think I put a whole lot of thought into it. It was like, okay. I mean, I don't think, but do you remember what your guidelines were?
Well, I mean, no, beyond just, I knew he only wanted 2 children. And I was like, that's not going to happen. Like we're having more. And, just, we're going to be in church together. Like you're going to be a praying man and all this. And I mean, sure enough, he slowly changed his life and quit partying on the weekends. And it was rough, but I think that women, you have to know what you want before you're married. And then whatever you get after you're married, like that, it's a done deal. So you have to make sure that you're, saying what you need and what you want so that you get the kind of marriage you want. I mean, you absolutely can change, but they have to be willing to change too. And so it's a joint effort no matter what the other partner wants.
you guys have 2 kids. We've met them. Awesome little kids. So kind of tell us about, your guys' how you guys met and how you've come to be at in your marriage now where you're at.
Well, we've been married for almost 14 years, which is crazy. But we met in college, and we both were in music school together in Ohio. And we met like my freshman year, his sophomore year, like the 3rd week of school or something. And I didn't want to date anybody because I was new in college. And then I kept seeing this guy around campus all the time, and he sat down next to me in the cafeteria, and the rest is history. But yeah, we have been together since then and dated all through college. And he proposed my senior year of college while I was student teaching. And it's been a whirlwind there, but it's been kind of fun because we've been together since I was 18. So we've gone through like all the big life changes, at the same time, like getting your first job. Whereas a lot of my friends dated people when they were, in their late 20s or just starting to get married in their early 30s. So we just had like a different time lapse than a lot of people. So it's been kind of fun to go through all the big stuff together.
Yeah. So for you guys, like when was the I do? Was it in college? Was it after? Where was it?
It was a junior year in college.
It was the proposal, and then we got married our senior year. We were married our senior year of undergrad.
Okay. How old were you?
We are 50 now, but
Or no, how old were you when you got married?
20.
20,
Okay.
21,
Oh my goodness.
20 and 21. Yeah.
How about you all then?
23.
Yeah, 23. But it was
23.
also, I'd be proposed, whatever you were, a junior? I was a senior?
No, my senior year. So you were student teaching, and I was like in the fall semester. So
Yeah.
I think I was 22, 21, 22, something like that.
Yeah.
Really young. We were like the first of all our friends to get married and stuff.
Yeah. And then how long were we engaged?
We were engaged for a little over a year
Yeah.
because we both wanted to let each other. Our big thing was we were graduating and we were both teachers, music teachers, same exact degree, but it's hard to find like a specific position like that. So we said we'll be engaged for a whole year and be able to move wherever. And whoever has a better job that they like the most, then that person will stay there and the other person will move. So we wanted to let us each get our own bearings and be like for ourselves before we had it to make the move that made sense. Obviously you're going to be together when you're married, but we wanted to get that experience. And somehow we ended up in the same city. So it like worked out, but we interviewed in different states and all of that stuff. But I mean, it worked out at the end, but we were willing to let each other have that year of figuring out, where we needed to be as individuals. And that's changed a lot over the years too.
Was that when I was in Salem?
Yeah, you were in Salem, Ohio for the first year, which was like a crazy job. And I was in our city for my first year for 5 years. And then, but yeah, now I'm in a much different place and you're in a totally different career. So we've had a lot of changes throughout the years.
Yeah. So where did you start out? Like whenever you were in college, what was your job after that?
So we had to move to New York because that was one of the chiropractic colleges. So when he did that, I had to get a master's because my master's is in speech pathology. Yeah. So it was either Syracuse or Ithaca. I went to Ithaca. It was about 45 minutes from where he went to chiropractic school. So,
okay.
Yeah.
We didn't see each other a whole lot during that.
No.
Very little.
But it was fun.
For
we
4
moved
years.
away from family. 8 hours.
Yeah.
We only had each other.
8 hours if I'm driving, 10 hours if you were driving.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. So, but we were like you. We were engaged right out a year.
Yeah.
Before we got married.
Yeah.
So we got married, right before our senior year. It was our junior year, and it went pretty quick because I think it was one of those things. She just decided, like, listen. Once I decided let's get engaged, I was like, if we're going to get engaged, let's get married quickly because there's no point, right? I mean, if you're going to be engaged, why not get married?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm big into the whole commitment thing.
Yeah.
And let's get it going. And so,
Well, we both went to the same college. So
and we
that
were
was
both
easy.
at the same college. That made it a lot easier. But yeah, I was the one who really, once we got engaged, I wanted to get married.
And then how old were you when you guys had kids?
23.
23 to 24, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, we were what, 26?
Yeah, 26. We got pregnant at 25. but
Yeah.
we had them at 20. Well, Nathan at 26.
That's the way with us.
So we were very young parents, and a lot of my friends were just getting married when we had Nathan.
Yeah, it's exactly what we were. I
Yeah.
think we had 2 kids before a lot of our friends were even getting married.
Same, yeah,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, so it's been it was a trial
Do you
by
think
fire.
that's good or?
No, I think it's good because like you guys are in a good spot right now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're still young,
Yeah.
in great shape, you've got like property, you can go have fun, do whatever you want, build more businesses, and you got the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
And also you have so much more time with your kids and grandkids.
Right.
It's phenomenal. That's the great part about
Like that's how I
it.
see it. Like there's because part of it is like, oh, I could have if I was single and didn't have all the responsibility when I was 26. Not single, but if I didn't have kids when I was 26, like, oh, you could have invested all this time in yourself and your business, and whatnot. But it's been more than that now. It's like, no, now we have all this time after they're graduated and moving on, more time with them, more time with the grandkids.
It's
you have more
absolutely
life
worth
with your
it.
kids.
Yeah, absolutely worth it. I mean, that's the thing. We're really enjoying it right now.
Our parents are 74 to 76, all 4 of ours, and they already have almost 4 great grandkids.
Yeah,
and
that's
they,
cool.
They
Yeah.
all golf and like do their own thing. Like wonderful. I think, man, we could have that.
Yeah,
Like,
we both of our parents are still married, so we had
Yeah.
really good examples growing up. So we were very fortunate in that aspect.
They still live around here?
They live actually. Well, her parents live here
Mm-hmm.
in the valley, but then my parents live like 2 hours away
Okay, so
north. Yeah, so not bad at all.
What
Yeah.
about you guys? Do you have?
Yeah, hers are up in Beaver, mine are in Pittsburgh, but they're only like 50 minutes away.
Yeah, close.
And I
Yeah.
come from a family of 9. Like I have 8 brothers and sisters,
Wow.
and we all grew up in a 2-bedroom house.
My mom had 14.
14.
14 with 3 boys. That was it. So yeah,
Jesus Christ.
14 in what 19 years?
Yeah.
It's 14 in 19 years.
So
Yeah.
11 girls.
And Darren's an
11.
only.
And I'm the
which
only. I
is
think
so
I don't know if they
funny.
got burnt out or what happened with
I
it.
think
But
that's
yeah,
what happened, yeah.
but yeah, they 14. So I think we've got my dad has 5 in his family, so not clear the size of what my mom's was, but
Yeah.
so I love the big family thing. So I was all for.
Wow.
You know, what's funny is I started. I only wanted 2 kids, and then kept having. I fell in love with kids. It was like I just loved having the kids. Actually, I wanted 5. She's the one who kind of put her foot down.
Yeah. They're expensive, aren't they?
Yeah. We're cut off at 2.
Yeah,
That's it. She
Yeah.
has all the kids at school, so.
that's true. And then we got a puppy, so that's like our
Yeah,
new
that's right.
child.
She's already pissing and shitting on the floor, so.
We still love them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've grown a lot in that period of time for sure, and it's
Mm-hmm.
changed a lot. How about you guys? What have you seen? What's the biggest difference in your relationship, probably from when you started to where you're at now?
Man, I feel like because we met so young and got married so young, we've just like grown as individuals together, if
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yes.
And that's been super cool because I remember like specifically when we came back from our honeymoon, Chris got his quote unquote dream job at the time. And we literally like that night sat back and we were like, we have it made. Like it's like everything's great. And then I got my teaching job I currently have is like at an extremely great school. And I really do love it. But when I got hired there from my inner city, we like sat down and had this whole conversation of like how we were like set for life. Like we had 2 of the best teaching jobs and all this stuff. And it's just funny how you go through like these different waves where, years later, that was like not his dream job anymore. And like we were continuing to grow as people, but it was like our dreams changed too. And just like because we understood each other and learned about each other and saw changes in a positive way, it was kind of fun to navigate all those new life changes and paths together of like what he wanted to become. Because there was a very specific point where I knew he didn't want to teach forever. And, I had not necessarily saying like, I want to teach forever, but like, I'm very happy in my job and it's a totally different experience than what his was. And I saw him not liking his job. And as a spouse, it's really hard to see your spouse come home and like hate what they're doing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it
Yes.
like trickle effects. And he was really good at not letting it affect his relationship as a husband or as a father. I never felt like him hating his job like affected our kids. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I have seen that in other people,
Yeah.
but it affected him a lot. And, I I could tell a difference in how, I don't know, just your energy level or what you wanted to.
Yeah, it's just draining.
Yeah, it was draining. That's exactly the word for it.
You're like tapped.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I
You have a
think
ceiling on your success.
that's what I had to deal with probably after we were
We've
bought
been
out
through that,
working
too.
for the other company.
Yeah.
I hated it. Like I was still doing what I was doing, but the problem is, again, I'm one of those ones pushing, and they were just kind of on this coast.
And there's nothing you can do. As much as you want to push, it doesn't
And
matter.
It would drive me up a wall, and I would come home and I'd be frustrated, I'd be angry.
It's heartbreaking as a spouse.
It is. And I
really
think
is.
what's really hard too is like,
But you had that first because she was at a job.
oh, that's true.
Her first job was horrible,
It was awful.
inner city, and
5 years.
she would have parents waiting for her out by her car.
Yeah, like scary stuff. Like I made friends with the really tall 6'4" gym teacher to walk me out to my car because I felt unsafe. Like crazy. I remember calling him once during my prep period and crying and saying, "This is my last year. No matter what, I'm done."
Yeah.
Just being
Yeah, so I
frustrated.
was telling her to quit many times. I was
Yeah.
like, just get a different job. Doesn't have to
Yeah.
be a teaching job. Just get any different job. Like there's.
Yeah.
But when
It's
you're in
not
that when
worth
you're in
it.
a bubble of like a career that you thought was your dream forever,
Yeah.
like a lot of times you think, oh, this is the most I can become. It's like this one job.
Self-set limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think too, when you're married, if your spouse doesn't see potential for a change too and is flexible, that like, yes, you said I went to college for this degree and this is what I wanted to do, and that technically you did get your dream job, and at that time that was his dream job.
Right.
And it's okay that it changes, but being flexible and going, let's see what else you want to do, or let's find, what you're passionate about. That's completely different. And now he has an incredible new career that he loves. But what was so interesting is when I would tell people, like, Chris quit his teaching job, and I was so excited. Like, multiple people were like, "Oh my God, is everything okay?" I'm sorry. Like, they thought it was like negative because they didn't understand. You have a pension. You have
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Like, they were freaking out, and they were so small-minded. But then we had
Yeah.
lots and lots of people that were like pumped. But we kind of did a lot of this like under the radar too, because we just didn't want anyone to not think like, oh, you can't do this, or
Right.
just to stay in your lane kind of situation.
Right.
But it is important for you to be very open-minded for your spouse and cheer them on instead of being the person who pulls them back, which I think a lot of marriages unfortunately are like that because people
Absolutely.
are small-minded.
Yeah. And I don't think and I think it comes back to a support issue for the spouse too, like really wanting the absolute best for them. I think married couples get caught up in so much of this is what I want,
Yeah.
that they forget about, hey, we're a team. I'm married to this person. I should be really rooting for them more than anything to get their dream. And then that works out all the way around. But I think that flexibility and that looking the best for the other person probably is because, again, small-mindedness, and everybody gets stuck with that me personality, that me mentality of, what about my job? What about this? And they forget to look, okay, wow, this person's suffering. They hate what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, what can we do to aid that person? Is huge. I think a lot of guys, like in our group, have been dealing with kind of things like that too.
Yeah, I just made a post about it today because over the
Yeah.
past 10 people that have joined us, 3 or 4 of them, their wives have signed them up for the
Yeah.
program, which is unreal.
That's
Because then
cool.
Yeah.
we also deal with situations where guys are terrified of their wife and have to try to hide it from them, and the whole thing gets sabotaged, as
Yeah.
it's happened to a couple guys. But if you have a wife that actually wants you to be fulfilled and become your best, it's an amazing thing.
It's huge.
And you're a lucky guy if that's the case, and it's a lot of times it's taken for granted. And then we tell the guys the same thing. The best thing I can do for you is hold you accountable and want you to become your best. You want your partner to do the same thing.
Yes.
I want Sarah to become her best. She wants me to become my best, and that's the best thing you could do for someone.
And not be threatened by that at
Yeah.
all.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
her being her absolute best is good for me. I mean, that's the thing. But not wanting her to excel would be absolutely selfish on my part, and then that would limit our relationship as well too. And I think that's where a lot of couples fall into that. Again, they get stuck in that me person. What
You
about
see,
my-
I see that a lot. It's
Yeah.
one person decides to rise, to become their best, and then the other person, it's like a mirror back on them. They're kind of well, why am I not?
Resentful.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're why am I not
Resentment.
that? And like, is he judging me because it's pizza night and he doesn't want to have pizza and I'm having pizza? Does he think I'm fat?
Yeah.
Or, you know, vice versa, whatever it is. And like, couples can spiral like that. I see it all the time.
Well, especially when you have one couple, like in a relationship where you have one that male or female that gets really into fitness, right? And then you see that massive transformation and the other person doesn't. And then they feel like jealousy or they feel resentment or, you know, and that creeps in because they're not communicating, they're not working together. And I mean, we know several couples that, you know, when you look at them going, okay, you can tell they've got different personalities about certain things, but their marriage is phenomenal. But again, that comes down to a communication. But then one thing that is consistent is they completely root for each other. Like they want the best for their spouse. Like that's the first thing that they want. They want them to be their absolute best. And being very selfless about it, which is huge. Absolutely huge. But yeah, the one guy, I mean, that's why I was really impressed. He's like, I wouldn't be here except for my wife signed me up. He said, she made the initial contact and told me, I want you to join it.
The guy joined today, same thing.
Yeah, and see, that's phenomenal. Like those guys have such a big advantage over some of the other guys that were worried about telling their wives about it.
Yeah.
I mean, a massive difference because they've got that support from their team member, you know, from their workmate, their helpmate, their spouse that's going to say, listen, you need to do this, and pushing them. That's a whole different ballgame than somebody that's struggling on their own, trying to make themselves better without really the backside support, waiting for that to occur. And we see that consistently with the guys. You know, women want consistency before they start going, oh, okay, and singing the praises about things a lot. And so we've seen that. I mean, some of the guys have made posts after they've been in the program for a month and a half, 2 months. You know, we've seen some posts from the wives that are phenomenal about what changes they've seen, and they were kind of hesitant about the program at first.
Yeah. Let me ask the ladies, because this is like an objection that I run into, but it's also just a guy thing. You know, there's a specific type of guy that's terrified of his wife, whose wife manages, like, checks up on him, and like he says he's not allowed to do certain things. Like I like to talk to a guy who has a $50 spending limit. He wasn't allowed to leave his bed before his wife. He's an extreme example. Okay, extreme example. Yeah. But there's a whole phase of guys like that. How does that happen?
Well, we had that guy last week that joined, and then comes back and says, "I can't do it. My wife's left."
That's the guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't allowed out of his bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know that much about it.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, we were having the discussion about that.
Yeah.
About how you guys. So how do you guys feel like?
So I got my own whole theory and opinions on that, but I'd love to hear the lady perspective.
That is the most disgusting thing. I hate when I hear like the controlling on the women's side, because I feel like it's becoming more and more common in our society that, like, I hate when people say, who wears the pants? Yeah. That is like my biggest pet peeve, because there shouldn't be one person that's in charge. You should work together, but like you each have strengths, you know, and there's certain things that men are men for this reason, women are women for this reason, but you like are together so you can like help each other. But I think, in my opinion, why that happens, there's, first off, they probably grew up in a home where the wife was in charge of everything. And then there's a lack of confidence in the husband. And so like if you are the boy now and you grew up where the mom was in charge of every single thing and dad was like, yes, honey, like you grow up being submissive basically to your wife for everything. And, you know, studies have shown that what you grow up in is like what you usually choose.
What you model, yeah.
Right. And so that unfortunately is like a pattern that is going to be a cycle through their child's life and the next child's life. And as we like continue with society, it gets kind of worse, you know, each year of like what is acceptable in society and things like that. And it's crazy because I do see a lot like women being in charge, and I don't think it should be necessarily that. But I also think, you know, if I was put in this situation, I would be so annoyed if my husband couldn't make decisions on his own or like put all of that on me all the time, to the point where like it would be really frustrating too. But I'm sure it stems from how people were brought up as well.
Well, and I just think the controlling thing from either side is just the wrong way to go. In my experience, what it's led to is affairs. Like a lot of times when you see the woman being so controlling, the guy usually has an affair because they have no way to escape. They're not going to argue. They have no outlet for communication because they're not going to argue. They're not going to tell somebody else, because that's not who they are anyway, because they're getting so ground down by their spouse. So I think we have to be really careful about being domineering over either one, but especially women with men, because they need that. I watched my boys grow up, and they reach a certain age, about 13. They want to make their decisions. They get very angry even, and they'll even rebel a little bit if you're not letting them be the boy, the man they want to be. And I've kind of learned that. We've kind of learned that through error too. Like, they need some freedoms, to make for themselves, to build that confidence. And like, our kids need that so that they don't go out and pick someone who's going to be domineering over them. So you just have to be really careful with that, because in my experience, I've seen the affairs come out with the men, and so it's not good for the woman to even act like that. It's just got to be a team. Marriage is a team.
I don't think you could be married to somebody that wasn't stepping up into a leadership role in the.
No, that's so foreign to me. Like, I don't get it, but I've seen it. So
Yes.
I see it all the time.
Yeah,
I know.
failure to lead. I think that's what that comes down to. A lot of, but then a lot of it's because masculinity is getting killed.
Yes, that's kind of what I was trying to say.
it's
Like, in
just-
society, it's just getting less and less.
Well, we had that discussion the one day about the toxic masculinity BS. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now you can just be an asshole, but that's a whole different ballgame. That's not toxic. That's just a jerk. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with being absolutely masculine and leading your family. And I mean, I don't think that you would do well with somebody that wasn't leading. Like, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but I mean taking charge.
I mean,
making
like you said, I
decisions.
want somebody making, like, I don't want them to leave the planning all to me. Like, I want them to say, I want to go here, and then get some feedback. But also, too, on this subject, we need to be careful what we're teaching our daughters, too. They're watching. And I think when little girls are really tiny and they get bossy and all that, and, I've always worked with my girls about teaching them to be a good friend and be sweet to other people. And it doesn't mean you can't be assertive. You can teach your girls to be assertive and stuff, but we're pushing in society for girls to be like this, controlling.
Yes.
And empowering them to be controlling, when that's never what we were meant to be. Like, I mean, most women say they want somebody who is going to take the lead for the most part.
Make them feel safe.
Yeah, you don't want to be.
I think that's the big thing, is make them feel
Yeah.
safe. And if a guy's
Security.
not making them feel safe, then they're going to take charge and trying to do that and control. I think that's probably that was what we're talking about with this guy's spouse. Probably, she's probably trying to feel safe in some manner because she has a husband that's not leading at all.
My theory is that, and she I always blame the guy, and she's like, no, it's the woman's fault. Like, I always told the guy, I was like, you created your wife to be like this.
Yes.
By you
Yeah.
constantly failing and not being able to hold your ground for anything, you forced her into this role she doesn't want to be in.
Yeah.
Like, so this is all your fault. And he told me that he was terrified of his mother, and that's where this part of this came from. Like, he could never stand up to his mother. But also, he had gambling habits, he had drinking problems, he had all these past issues where he just developed this pattern of not being able to be trusted. So I don't blame her. I mean, I blame her, but also it's his damn fault.
It was his fault.
At some point,
Yeah.
you need to stand up, be a man, and lead.
Change your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, and his saying like happy wife, happy life, and just saying yes, ma'am, and like there's a certain kind of guy that does that, and they'll tell you that it's because they're noble. I'll say I need to check with my wife because it's a good thing to do. I always say bullshit. It's because you're terrified.
Yeah.
Because you're taking the easy way out right now. Like, you're not willing to stand up and hold your ground. It's because you want to escape this confrontation you're going to be in. You would rather screw over your family and your wife and give a bad role model to your son than just do something that scares you right now.
Yeah.
And stepping forward and leading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's much harder. It's much easier to just say yes to your wife and not have a hard conversation than say, actually, no, I think we should do something a little bit differently because you're just terrified. And these guys
I agree.
crumble.
Yeah. And we're seeing that more and more though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with social media and stuff too, I feel like it's so praised for like women to act a certain way. And even if you look at TV shows, like the woman that is always like the hardcore character now. And so like you have to be careful too. Like with our kids being young, we really monitor what they watch.
Yes, absolutely.
Because a lot of things are very subliminal messaging going on of like how they speak to authority, how the kids speak to about boys specifically.
No, we've had a the Netflix show blocker has got like hundreds of shows on it.
Yeah.
Because it'll always start off as some kid show, but then immediately, like for the newer ones, it goes to like bashing the husband, bashing the father. Just he's always an idiot. He always is.
Right.
He's always submissive. He's always so weak. Part of what I would do with Rising Father long term is like make movies and TV shows and like of like strong masculine men who are smart, wise, warm, loving, but leading.
Servants.
Right.
Yeah.
Servant
Aren't
leaders,
idiots,
yeah.
you know? And being a servant doesn't mean slave, you know? Like,
No.
and I've had to have that conversation with guys in our group because they say, well, I'm doing with what my wife says. Like, no, that's not what we're saying. We're not saying do what you're told. We're saying like being a servant leader means like you're leading, but like you're the lighthouse that we talk about. It means you have standards, you have non-negotiables. It also means you help out with the dishes, you take out the trash, you clean it, you do all those things. You serve, but you're also dependable. You're also strong
Consistent,
and
yes.
a leader.
Yeah.
You know, there's a huge difference between that.
Which builds security.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and respect too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how many, I hate to say it, but like how many women have I met in my life that are like, oh, my husband never cleans this, or, you know, I have to take care of the kids. I'm in charge of this. And it's but that over the years, like they lose respect for their husband because they're not working as a team. It's you do this, I do this, you know? So I think like you're a wonderful example of being a lighthouse, but I truly mean that because you help with a lot of things and you've always have been that way. And I know that's rare, but that's what women really want. They could say, I want to be this independent woman, this, you know, hear me roar. But like at the end of the day, they just want a guy that is going to keep them safe, be dependable, that they can actually respect.
Yes, well said.
Yeah, being safe is I think women definitely want that they want to feel safe. They want to feel respected and feel safe. I think that comes down to a lot of guys have no idea how to do that. Right?
I feel bad for these wives, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm always coming down. I'll always take the wife's side. Like,
Yeah.
If you're,
I do too. She'll tell you that. Like I'm always like these guys. They're pathetic.
Yeah.
I just get
God,
irritated. Like
if I was married to some of these weak ass guys, my God, I'd be terrified all the time.
Yeah.
Like a guy that has to come and ask you, you know, can I get out of bed in the morning? Can I spend over $50?
That's wild.
I mean, my God,
yeah, that would be.
I would be terrified. No safety, no security. I mean, if you're the woman, like you're forced to be the husband, the father, and the wife and the mother, and this guy's just sitting on the couch being a bitch.
Well, I've seen that so many times with discipline, with dads with their daughters, especially. Like we saw this early in our marriage with a friend of ours, and like the husband would not discipline the daughters,
all.
and
Oh, no.
and so she was the husband in this case, and she was like, I'm constantly like disciplining her, step up, and you know, finally he did. Like after so many times, she was like, this is not working for me. Like it's causing big problems. He stepped up, and it was a huge change. Like, and it's not his wheelhouse. That's not really who he was. He asked Darrin, he said, is it really hard to discipline your girls? And he goes, well, sure. And I looked at him like with four heads. I was like, really? You never acted like that? He goes, well, yeah. Like, I mean, we had to spank our oldest one because she was just wild, but, and strong-willed, like, there was no corner for that child. Like, and so he's like, nobody wants to spank, like, their daughter, but he was like, I step up and I do it. Like, and so he really started mentoring him and stuff, but we have to make sure.
It was kind of the running joke for a while in the office because my office manager would come back and like, Darrin, your wife's on the phone again. She said, I think you're going to have to go and spank your daughter. When you
Oh my
go
God.
Oh
yeah, so that would be, I mean, like literally, I've been the disciplinarian.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Throughout the relation, by far, I've been the disciplinarian.
Like I discipline them, but then when you got home, they were like our one daughter tells the story, put on 10 pairs of underwear because she knew she was gonna get it. Like
yeah, and then I
she
didn't want to come
padding.
home and have to spank my kid the first thing I walk in the
Yeah,
door.
but
you
he
know,
did it.
But I did it. But I didn't ever want to do it. And it killed me to spank our daughters.
But you know what?
Killed me.
It made
now
me.
the boys kind of enjoyed it sometimes. I'll be honest. But my daughters, it was really hard for me to discipline.
That made me
but I
love
had
him
to.
though. After he said that, and he said, "Of course I don't want to like discipline them." And first thing I walk in, but he's like, "I'll do it for you." And I always knew I could just say, like, "You're going to your dad," and they'd shape up. Like that's a huge thing for a wife and mom. So
Yeah, and we ran into the same issue. Our daughter was, she's in college, and so she's freshman, been hanging around with this guy, right? And he'd been just a total jerk to her, like throughout the period of time. And so she comes home over, was it Christmas break? I think when she was home, and she wanted, and so she's like, I liked for him to come home to us over New Year's to come home and spend time with me. And Holly was like, "There's no way he's been a jerk to you. Why would you want him to come here?" Why don't you? I said, "No, I'll handle this." I said, "Emmy, that's fine. You tell him he can come here, but before he comes in the house, I want to talk to him by himself." And I said, "I want to have a little discussion about how he's treated you." And she was like, "Okay, fine. I'll tell him that." Like she's thinking that he's going to go, okay, great, I'll come and have that discussion with your dad, right? And of course, the whole time, we kind of got into arguments. I can't believe you said it was okay for him to come here after he's treated her like that and done the things that he's done. I said, just let me handle it. So she called him, and he's like, all of a sudden, he was getting ready to come. Then all of a sudden, oh, my mom's doing something. I got to go take care of her. I can't come. But he went from all gung-ho coming to our house to see, our daughter, who he's been really kind of abusive to, really.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, me putting my foot down and saying, listen, that's fine, you can come, but I want to have that discussion with you. And what did he do? He copped out, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we're dealing with in the youth generation now. Instead of coming and saying, hey, yeah, I really like her. I screwed up. I'm sorry. He's like, screw it. I'm not going to go talk to your dad, right? And then he hasn't talked to her really since.
No, not really.
Yeah. And so that put an end to that relationship. But I mean, that still speaks volumes for the kind of person that he was. And the fact how he was treating her, and then the time he could have came home and made up for all of that, met us, talked to me, and sat down man to man. No way he was going to do it. Mm-hmm. And so we've ran into that. He's going to be the same kind of guy that needs this kind of program at some point. These, weak dude, not leading.
Yeah.
Not stepping forward, not manning up. But that's what we're seeing across the board.
Yeah, really, they need this program. I mean, they all could use it. Even like the ones raised in a strong household, like our boys could use it, because it's like you guys said, it's the constant inundation of like, you have to be weak, you have to let your wife be the superpower, and that's just not the way it was meant to be. So thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's sad. Like it's really heartbreaking for the wives and for the guys. But one of the things that helps so much in our program and our group is just being surrounded by like you, me, other guys who are just obsessed with being strong and being the best husbands and fathers they can be. And that's the complete opposite of what they see on TV, what they see on social media. Like whatever you fill your head with is what you're going to become. And that's why it matters what our kids watch and what they're listening to, like what's on YouTube.
Yep.
Because they're just constantly inundated. Like if we let our kids go gung-ho on YouTube, who knows what the hell they'd be watching. Like there's just stuff snuck in there all the time. And then that ends up leaking its way to the kind of guys that we're talking about that need fixed. They need...
Yeah.
Well, and TikTok's the other thing, too.
Yeah, I mean...
Garbage out. Of course, your kids aren't there yet, but TikTok's...
They won't be there.
Yeah. I didn't get a cell phone until college. They don't need it anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ruination. I mean, what they see, and what our daughter has seen on as far as modeling, her behavior after what she sees other females, how they behave and what they do.
Yeah.
And then she's always self-doubting because she doesn't think she's good enough because of this personality that she's seeing on TikTok all the time that is not the real person, right? She's seeing a person that's been made up, that's been doing this, it's planned, it's all this stuff, but it's terrible for women. And I'm sure the guys are the same thing, but my boys were out of it before TikTok really hit.
I think that
hard.
We're just now realizing what social media did. Like, I think my daughter and my son, they were like 7th and 8th grade when the phones they still had a flip phone. So right after that, we raised our kids with the phones and the social media, all that came out. You guys now know, and I feel like all raising young children, like now, don't let them have it. Like, I think you're starting to see, because I know my kids are with their babies. They just have babies, but they're like, never a cell phone and never social media. And I'm like, thank goodness. Like, if I could go back, I would never do it. But
I think, too, like, since I'm a teacher and you were a teacher, we saw, I've been teaching for 15 years. And 15 years ago, kids were not the same as they are now.
No.
And that's mind-blowing to me, too, because I also see how different the parents are. And there's pros and cons both ways, right? But it's also just seeing the influence of social media for kids, even that are so little. Like, I teach elementary school, and it's nuts. Like, dress codes are out the window now. Like, they're technically in a handbook, but you might offend somebody if you tell them that they can't wear a crop top to school. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but like, I know I sound judgy, everybody, but like, what parent lets their second grader wear a crop top to school? Like, that is mind blowing to me, but it's there and it's all over. And we're just like so accepting of things that are like tearing down kids. And like, if a teen boy looks at a girl for wearing a crazy clothes, it's his fault because he looked at her. It's like, where are we going in the world, people? You know what I mean? It's just so crazy. And honestly, like, as a parent, I stress out with both kids, obviously, for how they are growing. But I just feel like there's a huge cry for help for boys. Like, there's just, they're getting slammed in all different ways. And we just have to be so careful as parents of raising boys and raising our daughters to understand, our places in different ways. I know I don't know how to say that.
It is a two-way street. No, you're exactly right. You've got to teach the girls and the boys. Like, this is what do you want to represent yourself as?
Yes.
And what do you want to attract? And I know that sounds horrible, but like, what are you like trying to? That's why I always ask my kids growing up. They're past that stage. Thank you, Lord. But I'd always be like, now, who do you think is going to be looking at that? Like, when you post that on social media or whatever, like, all you notice is skin. Like, they can't help that. Everybody's seeing it. So you're exactly right. You got to do both the boys and the girls. And it's just making them responsible, both sides. So,
which it still boils down to strong parents.
Yeah.
Yes.
Strong parents, strong male leadership, right? Strong female leadership. Those children seeing both strong parents as a team, setting the example, showing what leadership is like, right? And defining what being a male is, right? Being a man isn't, becoming a man isn't, hey, I had sex. That doesn't make you a man, right? But in society now, it seems a lot that that's what we're dealing with, and so that, there's no transition from you're a boy to a man. What does that occur? And I did a lot with our boys with that. And we still had issues, even still.
Yeah, what did you do? What do you into initiation? Anything
So,
like that?
yeah, so my was a little.
my poor little babies. I felt
Yeah,
so bad for them.
we have a family crest that I designed, and so part of that is they had to earn that, right? So it's a tattoo that they all got, but they had to memorize like Bible verse. They had to spend the night out in the woods by themselves. Like there were several things that they had to do. They had to take the family out completely on their own. Pay for a meal by themselves. Do a lot of these things, right? And transition so I could so they would know what a man has to do to provide, right? So had to be stable, do something with discipline, learn things, put effort into things. So we had a Vanscoy code of honor. They had to memorize that. There was just a lot of things. Now, did they screw up after they did? But who doesn't? But it was still, though, at least they learned, okay, listen, I tried the best I could to teach them this is what a man does. That a man provides, a man gives safety to his family. He provides for them financially, but he's there emotionally for them. And I try to teach them all of those things, but they had to go through all of that until, that was the only way they'd get their tattoo, the
How old
family
were they?
crest. They were 18, 19. Yeah, 18.
Yeah, because they didn't want to stay in the woods by themselves till about then.
That was the biggest,
So
that was the
that was
biggest
the
hand.
biggest
That was the
one.
biggest hand because I wanted them to know, okay, listen, fear is in your head. Like, now, did they actually stay? No, I was out in the woods. But I mean, they didn't know that. But I mean,
It was
the
right
big
by our
thing.
house, but
But they had to stay out there by themselves in the woods overnight, and it was right. Nothing's going to happen. But again, to them, they didn't know that, right? It's a fear thing, getting over fear, doing something they didn't want to do to get something that they wanted to have. And so many times now, men just avoid that. This is what they want, but they're not willing to do A, B, and C to get to that point. And so for me, that was setting that guideline for them. Okay, listen, this is what you want. Then these are the things you have to do. These are non-negotiables to get to that point. And if you want that, then that's what you'll do. If you don't want it, then don't do it. You're just not going to get it. And so for me, that was a lot because, I've just seen over and over, there's so many boys that have no idea what it means to become a man.
So there's a lot of men who don't know what it means.
There's still a lot of men that don't know. I mean, that's what we're seeing. I mean, and there's nothing in society teaching them that. I mean, really, I think a lot of them think, hey, I have sex, I'm a man now, right? I mean, that seems to be the thing, and that's not it whatsoever. Getting married doesn't make you a man, right? Having a job doesn't make you a man. It's your actions. It's not what you are per se. It's what you do. It's consistently, day after day, time after time. And that's hard to teach. I mean, everything that you've got in school now, I mean, all this, like we've talked about, social media is the easy way out, right? It's just be easy on it, do this the easy way. Doesn't have to be hard, and so teaching that is difficult, but at least I did my best to teach them that and go out of my way to do that.
And I think as a mother of sons, it's a really, I want to say this. You have to let your husband father their sons.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you felt like this, but like it was really hard sometimes when he'd be rough with them. Like when he was teaching my son football, he said, I'm going to go get your pads. I'm getting pads. We're getting helmets and I'm going to hit you. And I remember looking out there and Darrin would hit him and he was flying. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I was like crying I'm like, Darrin, do you really have to hit him that hard? He's like, yes, I do. He's like, what do you think these guys are going to do to him, Holly? And I was like, I don't care. He's just little. And he's like, he's not. And so he had to put his foot down, and I had to let him be that dad. I fought with that because we didn't have boys in our family. And so I let him do that. And that was a good thing. I always let him.
They need that.
They do.
There's so many soft, doughy dads who are just sitting on their couch doing nothing. They were soft, doughy kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do nothing. Like I'll post videos of me and Nathan rolling, and I'm throwing him on the mats and everything. And someone will say, "Oh, you're abusing your child." It's like, but Nathan's down there laughing, and he chokes me, and we're like giving each other arm bars and everything. Like if he has no experience of pain and just roughhousing, we do the same stuff to Lauren too. Like because they're both in jujitsu, they both do CrossFit, they do these hard physical things. Like no longer are they afraid of people being on top of them, trying to choke them, doing arm bars. Like Lauren laughs as kids are like on top of her, choking her.
It's
And
crazy.
she's an 8-year-old small girl.
Yeah.
And like the same thing with us, the more intentional stress we give them and give ourselves, the more you can just handle it.
Yeah.
But there's
The more
a lot
you grow.
There's a lot of guys who, sorry guys, but there's a lot of guys who like life is so damn easy and they're coasting, they're complacent. I talk to guys like successful business guys on my calls who are just doughy and sloppy and undisciplined too. I'm like, life's too easy for you. I was like, you don't even need to try hard right now. You can still make a lot of money and do pretty good. Like because of that, you're miserable.
Yeah.
You're miserable because you're not pushing yourself right now. Like
You're not being what you're supposed to be.
yeah, you can be a millionaire and have a lot of money in the world, but if you look in yourself in the mirror and you still don't respect yourself, you're going to be miserable. Like that's why you still have to be pushing yourself.
Yeah.
It makes you the same as every other man.
Well, I went out of my way a lot of times too when the boys were growing up. Like when we play games, I would intentionally like smash them to make sure that they lost bad because I wanted them to have to learn how to deal with losing.
Sounds like him.
Yeah, and I mean that's important.
And the moms are like, here, I'll give you
I
old
mean,
man.
there were
Here's
times
what-
I was intentionally like rough when we were playing whatever it would be. I mean, to the point, and I wanted to make sure they knew what it felt like to lose and to hate that feeling. I mean, I wanted them to learn to hate to lose, right? To absolutely hate it. Now, our card games can get quite wild as a family.
Yeah,
because, I mean,
now
May and I,
it's like,
everybody in our family hates to lose. Like losing in our family is just not acceptable at any level, from go fish to like anything in sports to whatever, right? But I went out of my way sometimes. It was never, I'm just going to let them win, right? There were times that I did, absolutely, because, that was just the fun part of it, right? But there were times that, and she'd come in, she'd be like, hey, did you have to do that? Like, yeah, I did.
Never in front of it.
Yeah,
but
never
we
in front
had
of it.
some
She would never
conversations.
second guess me in front of them. But there were times, with the boys, I absolutely
You
went
gotta
out.
gauge where their ego is.
Right,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Just like our puppy. Like if it gets a little too
I-
obnoxious and test you got to smash it a little bit.
Yeah,
That does make me more sad than the kids.
yeah,
Yeah,
But like you got to let them grow, have independence, get strong, and confident. But then when they start to test, they also have to know there's a
Yeah.
limit.
yeah. They have to absolute limits and that comes with disciplining, knowing that if they don't do certain things, these are consequences.
parents are feeling bad about that.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it in the schools.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
I did too. Like that's what we're teaching. Like, oh, you discipline? Well, that's just mean or whatever it is. Whereas back in the olden days, it was like that's you had to discipline.
Well, 15 years ago, if you call home, it's, I am so sorry. What did my kid do? Now it's like, I kid you not, an email, because it's never phone anymore, an email list of all the things I could do better so that their
Yeah.
kid doesn't act that way. And that's like what society is now anyways. But it's, it's really sad how much we are so like absorbed into thinking like, this is the only way, or you're being mean because you don't accept my child for all their flaws or whatever it is. But really, we're just trying to help them grow as people.
Right.
And it's okay to mess up, but like, you got to learn how to, grow in a good way that makes you a good person.
It bleeds over. Like what that does by the parents doing that, it's bleeding over into their marriages, their
Oh, yeah.
fatherhood, their motherhood, because it's always on the other person. It's not what could I do better? It's
Mhm.
what could somebody do to make me better? And that's just not a thing. Like,
Well, you have to like be able to grow. And so many people, like we keep saying, they want the easy way out. But like, you need to surround yourself with people that want to grow also, and watch and have your kids watch you want to be better or do hard things. And I think, how you say all the doughy people, like their kids are watching them build these $1 million businesses, which is amazing, but they're not doing anything physical or trying new things that are hard. And I think like one of the big, really cool things that Chris did for our family was he always said, I want to join jujitsu. And he's like, was in his 30s, and most people don't join something like that. And he joined jujitsu and showed that you can try something new that's hard at an older age. And then like his second year into jujitsu, I was like, well, I always wanted to do something that was really hard. And I was like extremely not athletic in any way, like couldn't jump rope, couldn't do anything. And I was like, I'm going to sign up for a CrossFit class. And like now when we fast forward 2 years later, you know, our kids are involved in both of those sports, and they see people that are incredible athletes all the time that are doing really hard things. And they watch people fail all the time, but then they, you know, pick that barbell back up or they roll again with someone. And I think that's a huge life lesson that a lot of people aren't really able to throw themselves at things anymore because they're scared of failing, or they don't want their kids to watch them fail. And I think, you know, it's really important to make sure that you're leading the way that way too.
Yeah, so what you just said, strong men led to a strong wife, which leads to a strong family.
Yep.
It's absolutely foundational. I mean, absolutely. Strong men lead strong wives, strong family, period. I mean, that's so important. I mean, that was the perfect example right there. If you hadn't done that, stepped out, right, and then she wouldn't have, and then your kids wouldn't be doing what you're doing now because you stepped out and did it.
It's hard. It's hard if you're that guy. It's hard to do that. I talk to so many guys who are in that situation where, and because and also like a lot of times the tone that whoever is the most intense in holding the standard, whatever the tone they set for the family is the tone the family's going to take. You know, like if you give yourself some slack, you say, all right, I'm just going to binge this whole weekend. A lot of time the whole entire family ends up binging.
Yeah.
But there's some guys who live their entire life that way, and they're miserable. And to break out of it and save their family, like they have to save themselves. And I get it. It's hard. Like I've been there where you're struggling and you're sloppy, you're undisciplined, you're overweight, but like every single person can make that massive change. And if you care about your wife, your kids, like the best thing you can do is build yourself first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And then your family will follow.
Yeah, self foundation for excellence is going to lead everybody around you to that, right? Not accepting anything but that. Your wives will start picking that up. Your kids will pick that up, but it comes from that leadership, right? I mean, completely understood it. Yeah. And that's what we don't see. I mean, across the board, we don't have that male leadership, strong male leadership. And that's why we're heading where we're heading as a culture and a society, because men just aren't strong anymore at all.
That's what we're trying to fix.
Yeah. That's what we're absolutely trying to fix. That's the absolute goal. Absolutely.
So let me ask you guys a specific marriage question, because you guys are 50, right?
Yeah.
So what's something that about each other that you put you on a spot that you didn't like that now you kind of accept and let the person grow with? Like, what's a characteristic?
I'll let you go first.
This is an acceptance thing.
Yeah.
Like, so I would probably say his working out, like he always worked out. And it took a lot of time, you know, and his family's pretty, I mean, if they didn't work out, they wouldn't be obese or anything. They've got pretty good genetics. However, he always wanted to like get better, get fitter, get bigger, or whatever it was, whatever you were doing. If it was CrossFit, he wanted to be better at that. But if it was bodybuilding, and so a lot of times I'd be like, oh, why do you have to get up so early? Why do you have to do that? But now, like, I see where that has carried over into other parts of his life, his working, his kid, being with the kids and making sure they get to their stuff and doing all that. So for me, plus it gives him a clear mind, a purpose, all that. And so for me, I've just accepted that. And he's a workaholic. He loves to work. He's not going to sit on the couch with me and watch girl movies. He's not going to do it. And I'm like, okay, like I accept that about him because he's got that leads to so many good qualities. And so, I feel like, you know, I've finally accepted that, and I'm like, you go work out. Like, you just go be in a better mood when you go back, huh?
I'm not allowed to retire.
No.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to
No.
retire.
Go crazy.
Yeah, because I'll drive her crazy.
Well, he wants my help to like fix things and do things.
I can't sit. Yeah, I
No.
can't sit. And I think on the likewise, probably she is the better half of me of I am such a go-getter that it's always bothered me to an extent. Not as much anymore, that she was like, let's just chill. Let's just do this.
Yeah,
Let's
you probably
just,
thought it was laziness, actually. So say it.
I will.
He's being really nice.
I'm trying to be nice, but I always thought that it was being lazy, but it wasn't. And the fact is, I mean, just because I'm happy being balls out 24/7 doesn't mean that she is. And so for me, it was me growing and learning that her happiness is quite different from what my happiness is. And then trying to merge those two together. And if anything, learning from her a little bit to relax and chill, which is what horseback riding is probably the only time on the.
And the hot tub, because you used to make you so mad that I would take a long bath at night. And you're like, why do you do that? And I'm like, because it's relaxing. So we got a hot tub. And lo and behold, he's like,
Yeah, I do
wow.
like the hot tub. I do like the hot
I'm
tub.
relaxed.
So that part of her, which I always thought kind of was, I wanted her to stay home. So staying home was not the issue. Because, I mean,
Right.
she worked. I mean, I came home, she was crying, the kids were crying. I wanted to run out the door, right? But she had dealt with that all day. And so I always admired that. Her staying at home with the kids was never the issue. But it was just the fact that, like, I'm going to go get her. I'd say, okay, the kids are doing this, let's go do something. And she's like, no, let's just relax. And so for me, it was always coming across as like being lazy.
Yeah.
But it was just her happiness was just relaxing sometimes. And that is not happy for me. Like just sitting down and relaxing, like watching stuff. Like occasionally now we'll sit down and watch a show, but after one, she's like, you want to watch something? I'm like, no, I gotta do something. So coming to accept the fact that her happiness is being able to relax and enjoy that with her has been the biggest thing for me to learn. And that by far it's been the healthiest thing for me, because if she wasn't like that, if she was a type A on the go, I would never quit. Like I would have zero rest time. I would be on the go, probably dead already, because I would have ran myself in the ground. So what I perceived as her laziness was just really her really enjoying to be able to learn how to be relaxed, getting relaxed and enjoying that. And so me finally accepting that and learning it myself, I'm a lot happier guy, for sure.
What about you?
Yeah, what about you guys?
Why don't you go first?
I feel like a very similar story there, but I don't know. You're perfect. I would say like, I don't know. Maybe you go first. I have to keep thinking.
You're on the spot now.
Hey, take it. She
in the
loves
Darrin
you.
move.
Yeah, I don't know.
Take it.
Judging the intensity of her response. Me first?
Yeah.
All right. Something that annoys me about you. I've gotten over. Probably the specificity of things that I consider not important and don't matter to me. Like, there's things that are extremely important to her that mean nothing to me. Like, where things go.
Okay,
that's
my
good.
approach just said that too.
Like, things being in a certain spot, things having to look a certain way, for certain things to happen. For me, like, I'm more like project oriented and faced. Like, the intention, the reason behind what we're doing right now is to achieve this objective.
Results.
Nothing else matters unless that objective. It's like all the 100 little details that happen along the way. I don't give a shit unless this thing is accomplished. But for her, all the little details matter. And sometimes we can get into conflict whenever I'm like, these details do not matter. And they're holding up the result. But for her, they're very important.
Yeah.
And that situation can take all types of turns and bumps and all that kind of stuff.
Just reiterating though, when places do have everything has a place. And remember the one time that we
I've had this
lost
conversation
our
so many
car
times.
keys, and then we all had plans, but we couldn't find our keys because they weren't put in the bin that says keys.
Now, here's something.
So you couldn't reach the goal because it wasn't done.
Correct. So like the
Sarah
things
putting
on the way.
things where they belong, but where they belong is subjective to where she believes they belong. Not always where I put them.
Yeah, that is true.
Things go to the right place, or where she believes are the right place.
I label everything though where it goes.
Well, I told you to label everything. Because
You did.
the right place only existed in your brain.
Correct. So now you can open a cover and it says ibuprofen is in here, so
Make it
you know where it
stupid
goes.
proof, right? Make it stupid proof. So we can't,
No,
yeah.
I agree, and I'll give you that too, because I grew up, I love my parents, but they're both like type A with certain things. So we couldn't move on to the next thing until this was cleaned up. Mm-hmm. So, and we grew up very different in that respect. So I have, believe it or not, chilled out a lot more than when we were first married. Like,
Kids will do that too.
yes. And even since we've had kids, I've like chilled, but I'm with you on that. I am a little nuts with that, especially if I'm in like a bad mood.
Your turn.
My turn is that you don't put things back. No, I'm kidding. I think that it's taken me a while to like learn that you kind of like always have to be busy. And if you have a project you're working on, you have to finish that before you can do anything else. And sometimes I'm like, well, just take a break for a minute because like, let's just chill because we've had a busy day. But like, no, we have XYZ to do. We're done with this project. And now I've learned that we're going to be finishing that project anyway. So instead of trying to, try to get you to do something else, how can I sometimes help you so that we can get the project done a little bit faster? And I don't necessarily mean like a house project or just anything that you're doing in your business or any goal you're working towards.
The downside of being married to guys driven by results, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's the truth.
But it is nice though that he is
There's benefits to it, right?
100%. But he's super assertive with things. Like, for example, a current thing that we had experienced in our house is, speaking of projects.
Or the kitchen.
I have this one night every year in December. My best friends are all in town. So we go to a cabin and do an overnight. Okay. So it's like our girls' overnight cabin trip. And you're like in the best mood. It's just like amazing. And we've always talked about redoing our kitchen. And we had this huge island. Okay. And this is 2 days after Christmas, and we're hosting New Year's Eve party. And I get a picture of our island gone. It doesn't exist anymore in our
It's a video
kitchen.
of Nathan smashing it with a sledgehammer.
But remember, like under the counter, there's no floors, right? Like you have to match your tile. Does it exist in Lowe's anymore? We don't have a new counter. Like, what's the game plan? You know what I mean? So I immediately am infuriated. I can't believe you would do that. But lo and behold, he promised me it would be done for New Year's Eve, and it was done the 30th. Whole new kitchen, everything we've talked about.
24 hours.
Yeah, because he won't stop. He'll stay up till 3 a.m. to finish the project. And I knew he would do it, but it was just that instant, like, oh, I can't believe you did this. Like the stress of me wanting to take my Christmas break and lay on the couch and watch movies and read books and do nothing. And then thinking, oh my gosh, now I have to do this kitchen. But in reality, realizing, I guess that's my big thing that I could say if I was picking something like the projects. I always go back, and in the moment I get heated, but I know deep down in the back, he'll get it done. And like, I need to also ground myself in that because you're reliable and I respect you and know that you're going to get it done. I am, because of the cleaning up along the way. When I see the mess, that's where my panic mode comes out, because I see the mess, but I know you see the end project. You know what I mean? So there's my answer, I guess.
Okay.
And we have a beautiful kitchen.
We do too. We've been through that as well. Yes. What's your panic mode?
What do you mean?
Like, what puts you in panic mode? Anything?
Not too much anymore.
And then you've been.
I've been through 4 kids, so many ER trips. ER trips. Like, no.
Yeah, I kept the ER in business for a while.
Yeah.
So
did my one son. So I don't do a lot. I think when you reach 50 and you've raised these kids and you've been through everything that we've been through, it's like, okay, I've learned that this can make or break you. So you might as well let it make you instead of breaking you.
Mm-hmm.
And so really,
we're a lot more chill now, I think, than what we were probably 10 years ago.
Getting older is not that bad because there's a lot.
You feel so free about giving people your opinion. I don't know what it is. It's about 45 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, where you just don't care anymore. It's just like, you just say, listen, this is what I think. Period.
Yeah.
Don't sugarcoat it.
You can't give it to your kids too much because they don't take it very well when they're married and have kids. And so you got to be real careful with who you give it to. But, it's all right.
You scared of public speaking my ass.
No,
So you guys-
she
we
said
keep talking.
conversation.
Yeah.
That was good. Like I can do conversation. I just can't get
Oh,
up and
4 hours ago, she wasn't coming. Well, she was mad at me for
No,
one
that's
thing.
good.
because-
It's like with everything. It's like this is our first doing like my first time doing an in-person 4-person podcast, and like we adjusted, we pivoted, and it got real natural, and
Yeah.
it was a great conversation.
But that was the thing. Yeah, I just came home and said, "Hey, Chris and Sarah, come down. Let's do a podcast." Didn't really ask her.
She didn't really know what was going on either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so she was like, "Yeah, that was the whole tiff about 4 hours ago.
yeah,
5
I
hours
wanted
ago."
to be asked.
She's like, "I don't want to do this." I mean, she
Oh,
wasn't coming, right?
yeah.
It wasn't coming. I was
I
just like,
wasn't
I just
asked at
assumed
all.
that she would be good with it because we've done things before like this, and then
Not really.
well, we did a lot of Facebook lives. She didn't have to talk a lot though, but so it was like, I'm not going. I was like, no, I was like, listen, we've got this set up. Then she's like, okay, I'll go.
He just loves the volunteer maker stuff.
Yeah. Again, that was my like go getter, like just let's
Like
just
church,
do it.
whatever
Not
it
really
is, it
taking the
just
fact that
volunteers
she
me.
wouldn't want to do it, but she did it.
And
then-
a lot of times I'm just like, no. And then I think about it and I'm like, okay, like I just want the freedom to be able to think about it and adjust my mind to it because usually if somebody asks me something, I'm like, no. But then I'll think about it, I'll say, okay, I'll do it. Like, give me a minute to think, to process it. I'm just a
Be at like
processor.
5:00 today. She's like, I'm not doing that. I was like, I don't know what we tell Chris. Like, I don't know what we're
Well, I
gonna do.
was
I was
mad
like,
at you,
yeah.
So.
So it just but we got over it.
Yeah.
We're here laughing about it now. So it wasn't real pretty at that point. But yeah,
It's okay.
I didn't ask the right way. I just kind of told her, I guess, was the thing, huh?
Yeah.
That we were doing it, assuming that she would want to, and she didn't, but she did it anyway.
And you crushed it.
Learning
well,
lesson.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I think people just want to hear people talking and hanging out and having conversations. Like, it's normal conversations.
And realizing that everybody's going through the same struggles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that project thing, and so many guys I talk to have that exact same problem. Like you have a project you're working on, someone tries to talk to you when you're in the middle of it, you're just like, what? Why are you talking to me right now? I got like 5 more minutes to go to finish this one thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you can't focus. At least I can't. Like, it's like I got 5 minutes to work on this one thing. There's someone trying to talk to me. I have to finish this one thing. And if I don't, I'm like, my brain is going crazy. Just got to finish.
Well, I do that all the time. I'll be emailing a patient, responding to a patient or something, and she'll come and start talking to me. I don't even realize she's talking. Like, I'm so focused. Yeah, and then she walks away, and I'm like, "What are you mad about?" Like, not even knowing the fact, it's just that focus.
I don't usually get mad.
Well, that's
No.
usually when Sarah tell me the most important thing I need to remember is
I was like, we have to meet them at the restaurant.
It's like no, it's like a date time a month and a half from now that she's gonna remind me of. Like, oh, I told you. Like, yeah, when I was in the middle of writing an email.
That's how you get things
45
out.
days ago.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is hard because I feel like we're both busy people, though, too, in general. So I have like another side business, too, and sometimes I'll get really digging deep and you do want to finish the task, but it is hard.
It's easy to get. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I think we cover a lot. Should get plenty for both of us.
Yeah.
For anything, yeah. Training time tomorrow.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Actually,
I know. My throat is so dry. I was like croaking.
I
I wanted
thought
so
we
bad.
got
to
you
drink
guys-
water.
he's
I'm not allowed to
He's
drink
not
water.
allowed to drink water. He's in that prep. You've been there.
I wanted to drink water so
Ask
bad.
ask her opinion about show prep.
That's mean. You're just mean. At least he's not mean without water.
Water, calorie deficient, unbelievably calorie deficient. Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know.
I got better the last one. The further it went on, but yeah. So he's in that stage, but he is nicer than I am right now.
He's really nice when he first did his very first transformation, like before you really went huge in Rising Father. I was so shocked at how nice you were whenever you were like supposed to have all that brain fog and
Besides
Oh.
besides the restaurant.
what restaurant?
You talking which one?